They say every picture tells a story. But what if every perfect picture hides one? Rupa and Arjun, an Indian couple living in London. To the world, they are flawless, smiling faces, matching outfits, the kind of love people double tap without thinking. But behind those bright filters lives a silence darker than anyone could imagine. For 20 years, Arjun believed in the woman he married. And for 20 years, Rupa played her part perfectly. Every caption, every story, every anniversary post, a performance. But truth doesn't stay hidden forever. It breathes. It waits. And when it finally speaks, it breaks everything. He had seen the signs, the late-night texts, the nervous smiles, the sudden work trips that didn't exist. But Arjun chose faith over doubt, love over truth, until the truth chose him. And now, the same woman who built a life with him is about to watch it burn post by post, lie by lie. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about awareness, about the price of pretending and the power of finally opening your eyes. This is Offline Screens, Hidden Lives, a funny fun audio book gala presentation where love meets illusion and truth finally finds its voice. London, the city of dreamers, where people walk fast, speak soft, and love loud on social media. Rupa and Arjun were one of those couples everyone noticed, but no one really knew. She was elegant, educated, and always smiling. He was calm, devoted, and too gentle for his own good. 20 years of marriage. 2 beautiful kids, Aisha and Kabir. A stable career, a home in London suburb, and a routine that looked like success. But what no one saw was how routine had turned into a mask. Every morning, Rupa played the role of a perfect wife flawlessly. Coffee ready, school lunch packed, goodbye kiss on Arjun's cheek. And every night, after the family slept, her phone glowed with a different life. A life filled with messages that didn't belong to a wife. Lies that started as flattery and turned into chains. Arjun had always trusted her. He believed love was about faith, not control, but faith without truth is a blindfold. He noticed the small changes, the way she hid her screen, the way she smiled while typing, the way she laughed when no one was there. At first, he thought, maybe he's imagining things. Maybe she's just busy, or bored, or stressed. But deep down, he knew something was cracking beneath the surface. Rupa had a habit of underestimating him. She thought his silence meant ignorance. But his silence was watching, recording, remembering. And then came the night everything changed. Arjun came home early from a work trip. He didn't call. He didn't warn. He just walked in. And what he saw on her screen froze him. Messages, pictures, promises, all from the same man, someone close. Someone she had introduced as just a family friend. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just watched her laugh at her phone, and something inside him broke quietly. That night, he didn't confront her. He just sat outside their home in his car for hours. The rain kept falling. His hands didn't move. And for the first time in his life, Arjun felt the truth. The person sleeping next to you can be a stranger. This is where our story begins. Not with anger, but with awakening. Not with revenge, but with realization. Because sometimes, the most painful truths are the ones that set you free. And for Arjun, freedom starts tonight. This is Funny Fun Audio Book Gala, where silence speaks and truth finally has a voice.
Chapter 1. The First Crack. A Funny Fun Audiobook Gala original. The first crack never makes a sound. It's silent. Invisible, it hides beneath laughter between morning kisses and inside half-hearted conversations. For Arjun and Rupa, it started on a Thursday morning. Nothing dramatic, just a delay. She forgot to make his tea, something she had never forgotten in 20 years. It was small, but it felt different. The way she said, "Oh, sorry, I was busy," sounded too casual, too detached. Arjun smiled and said nothing. But in that small moment, something deep inside him noticed. For years they had a rhythm, not perfect, but peaceful. Morning tea, shared newspaper, quick laughter before the day began. Now, silence had replaced laughter. Screens had replaced conversation. He watched her fingers dance across her phone more than her eyes looked at him. He saw her smile, not at him, but at someone else's message. And that smile cut deeper than any fight ever could. Arjun wasn't the kind of man to snoop. He wasn't controlling. He believed trust meant giving space. But space, when abused, becomes distance. And distance turns love into memory. That evening he came home early. Rupa didn't hear him come in. She was in the living room, whispering softly on the phone. Her tone was gentle, romantic, words meant for someone else. He didn't say a word. He just stood behind the half-open door, listening to the woman he thought he knew. She said things that didn't belong in their marriage. And when she laughed, that soft, private laugh, something inside him shattered quietly. That night Arjun couldn't sleep. The ceiling fan spun above him like time that wouldn't stop. He stared into the dark and tried to convince himself, maybe it's nothing. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe it's just work stress or loneliness. But deep down he knew. A husband always knows when his wife's heart has left the home. He looked at her sleeping face, peaceful, innocent, pretending, and he whispered under his breath, "Why, Rupa?" Not loud enough for her to hear, but enough for his soul to feel it. In the morning, he acted normal, because that's what people do when they're breaking. They perform normalcy. He went to work, smiled at colleagues, answered emails, and came home like everything was fine. But inside, he had started building walls. Not to protect himself, but to prepare. He began noticing more: the new perfume, the extra makeup, the sudden interest in going out with friends. Every detail told a story. Every excuse was another crack. And yet, he didn't confront her. He waited. He watched. Because Arjun wasn't looking for proof. He already had it. He was looking for understanding. He wanted to know why. Love doesn't vanish overnight. It fades through neglect, dies in silence, and ends in deception. And Arjun was watching his marriage dissolve one lie at a time. That night, he made a quiet promise to himself. He won't shout. He won't beg. He'll just observe. Because truth doesn't need reaction. It reveals itself. This was the first crack. And every crack that followed would reveal not just Rupa's betrayal, but Arjun's transformation. This is Funny Fun audiobook Gala, where silence speaks louder than lies. Chapter 2, Whispers of Doubt. Life had become a routine for Arjun. Office, home, silence. And even when Rupa was beside him, that silence never really ended. It wasn't just the silence of words. It was the silence that grows between two hearts drifting apart. Rupa's phone had started lighting up more often. Late-night notifications. Soft laughter she tried to hide. And every time Arjun asked, she smiled gently and said, "It's just office stuff. You're busy too, right?" But deep inside, Arjun knew. Something was shifting. Something was changing. One night, while Rupa was asleep, Arjun picked up her phone. The screen lit up with a name he'd never seen before: Rahul, consultant. The messages were few, but sharp. "Miss you today. Let's fix tomorrow's meeting." Each word felt like a knife to his chest. He didn't react. He just placed the phone back, took a deep breath, and stared at the ceiling. "Am I overthinking?" he whispered to himself. "Or is this the truth knocking at my door?" That night, sleep left them both, but for different reasons. Rupa was resting peacefully, and Arjun was breaking quietly. Chapter 3, The Proof in Shadows. The next morning, Arjun sat quietly by the window, coffee in hand, eyes blank. Rupa was humming softly, getting ready for work. The same calm smile, the same routine. But to Arjun, everything felt different now. Every move, every glance, every small gesture. It all carried a shadow. He watched as Rupa picked up her phone, typed something quickly, and smiled to herself. Then she slipped it into her bag like nothing happened. Arjun's heart tightened. He didn't say a word. He waited for the door to close behind her, and then he stood up. Something inside him whispered, "Today, you'll find out." He followed Rupa's cab at a distance. The rain had started falling harder now, washing the city in streaks of gray. Her cab stopped near a cafe in the business district, a place they both used to visit years ago, back when love still had laughter. Through the fog glass, Arjun saw her sit across from a man, tall, confident, smiling. It was the same man from the messages, Rahul. They talked for minutes that felt like hours. Her hands moved freely, her laughter brighter than it had been in months. And in that moment, Arjun realized something painful. He had become a stranger in his own marriage. He didn't storm in. He didn't cause a scene. He just stood there in the rain, watching the truth unfold, quietly, helplessly. A couple walked past, laughing under one umbrella, and that's when it hit him. This pain, this silence, this humiliation, it wasn't sudden. It was slow, like rust that eats away at steel. Arjun walked away from the cafe, his shoes soaked, his heart heavier than ever. Every drop of rain felt like it was washing away another illusion. When he reached home, he sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, "So this is what love becomes when trust dies." The clock ticked. The phone buzzed. It was Rupa texting him. "Working late today? Don't wait for me." Arjun looked at the message, smiled bitterly, and finally whispered, "I stopped waiting a long time ago." Chapter 4. The confrontation that never happened. That night, the apartment was quiet, too quiet. Arjun sat in the living room, phone in hand, eyes fixed on the screen. On the photos, the messages, the truth, he had everything he needed. The proof was right there. Every word, every secret meeting, every lie, all stored in the device he once bought her out of love. He could have exposed her. He could have screamed, shattered, destroyed everything. But he didn't, because some men don't break loud. They break silently. When Rupa returned home that night, her eyes looked tired, but not guilty. She smiled faintly, said she had a long day, and walked past him like nothing happened. Arjun just nodded. He didn't ask where she was. He didn't accuse. He just watched her quietly, as if he was seeing her for the first time, not as his wife, but as a stranger who once knew how to love him. Rupa went into the shower. He sat there, listening to the water hit the tiles, each drop echoing like a countdown in his chest. When she came out, Arjun was still sitting in the same position. She asked, "You okay?" He smiled and said, "Yeah, I'm just thinking about how time changes people." She laughed lightly. "Are you getting philosophical again?" He didn't answer, just smiled, because deep down, he knew the truth. This wasn't the woman he married 20 years ago. This was someone else, someone who had built her own world of lies, and called it love. Later that night, when she fell asleep beside him, Arjun stared at the ceiling, the darkness whispering thoughts too heavy to hold. He whispered to himself, "I could tell her I know everything, but what's the point? She'd only lie better next time." He turned away from her. Tears didn't come. Only exhaustion, the kind that comes from fighting battles no one sees. Arjun realized something powerful that night. Sometimes silence is not forgiveness. It's just the space between love and goodbye. He decided he would not confront her, not yet, because the loudest revenge is peace. Chapter 5. When love turns to strategy. The next morning, Arjun didn't wake up broken. He woke up awake, truly awake for the first time in years. He looked at Rupa as she moved around the kitchen, humming softly, wearing the same face she'd worn for 20 years. The face of comfort, routine, control. But now he could see through it. Every smile, every gesture, every lie, disguised as love. You see, something happens when pain reaches a limit. It doesn't destroy you, it sharpens you. Arjun stopped reacting. He stopped questioning. He started studying every call, every outing, every casual lie that slipped through her lips. He memorized it all. He wasn't a husband anymore. He was a strategist. At first, Rupa thought he had grown distant. She told her friends, "He's become so quiet these days, maybe he's tired." But silence isn't weakness. Silence is preparation. He was no longer chasing the truth. He was building it, piece by piece, moment by moment. He didn't want revenge. He wanted clarity. Because revenge burns fast, but clarity burns forever. Sometimes he'd sit by the window at night, watching her phone light up with unknown names, unknown numbers. He didn't ask. He didn't accuse. He just smiled to himself and whispered, "Keep playing your game. I'm learning the rules." That smile, it wasn't anger. It was control, because for the first time, the power was shifting. And she didn't even notice. In that diary, he wrote 3 words every night. Patience builds proof. He wrote it until the ink ran dry. Until it wasn't just a sentence. It became his new discipline. When love turns to strategy, you stop chasing explanations, you stop waiting for closure. You start preparing for your own peace. Arjun had learned something that only heartbreak can teach. Sometimes you must love someone enough to let them destroy themselves. And that's exactly what he was about to do. Chapter 6. The mask she wore too long for 20 years, Rupa had worn her mask perfectly. The caring wife. The gentle mother. The woman who always smiled on time, cried on cue, and spoke with measured grace. But every mask has a weakness. It eyes into the lies it hides, it's the time it is forced to endure. Time always wins. It cracks the paint. It exposes the tremble in the voice. It catches what you try to bury. Arjun noticed it first in her eyes. The way they avoided his for just a second too long. The way her laughter arrived a moment late, like she was rehearsing emotions she no longer felt. He saw her mask slipping, but he said nothing, because silence had become his sharpest weapon. Rupa talked about the day. Simple things, work gossip, neighbors. But Arjun just listened, nodding softly, while his mind rewound every sentence, every tiny inconsistency, every trace of fear that hid between her words. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was observation, and observation was control. That night, she fell asleep first. Her phone slipped from her hand. Arjun didn't touch it. He didn't need to. He'd already memorized her patterns. Who she called, when she texted, how her tone changed when she spoke in another room. The mask she wore was heavy now, even for her. He could see it in the way she exhaled in her sleep, as if even her dreams were tired of pretending. Sometimes truth doesn't explode. It erodes grain by grain, and Arjun was patient enough to watch it all fall apart. He started noticing her hesitation before leaving the house. Her sudden interest in long drives alone, the perfume she never used before, the messages she typed, then deleted. Every small detail, a silent confession. He didn't confront her. He didn't accuse. He let the universe do its work. Because when someone wears a mask too long, eventually it stops fitting and starts suffocating. Rupa didn't know it yet, but her lies were running out of breath, and Arjun? He was done being blind. He wasn't chasing her anymore. He was watching her reveal herself. You don't destroy truth, Rupa. You delay it. And time never forgets. Chapter 7. Secrets in the Mirror. Some mornings carry silence that feels different. Too clean, too still. That morning was one of them. Rupa stood before the mirror, applying her lipstick. Red, too bold for a regular Tuesday. Arjun watched from the doorway, quietly sipping his tea. He wasn't looking at her face. He was watching her reflection. Because reflections never lie, people do. Every glance, every hesitation, told him more than her words ever could. She smiled at herself in the mirror. But that smile wasn't for her husband. It was practice, preparation. For someone else, Arjun's voice was calm, almost casual. Meeting someone special today? She froze, just for a heartbeat, then laughed. Too fast. Too defensive. Oh, please, Arjun. It's just work. But even her reflection looked away. Later that day, she left earlier than usual. Perfume, perfect timing. Arjun followed her car. Not too close, not too far. His calm wasn't fake anymore. It was calculated. She stopped at a small cafe by the old harbor. Not her office, not her friends, and definitely not coincidence. From his parked car, Arjun watched her sit across from a man he didn't recognize. A man who laughed too easily, who touched her hand across the table without hesitation. The truth wasn't a bomb. It was a mirror, finally showing him what had been there all along. He didn't confront her there. He didn't storm in or shout. He just watched. Every second burned itself into his memory. The way she leaned forward, the way she touched her hair, the way she became someone else entirely. By the time she returned home, Arjun had already decided something powerful. He wouldn't expose her, not yet. He wanted her to feel the weight of her own reflection. She looked tired. Not from the day, but from the double life. And for the first time, she saw herself clearly. Her eyes hollow, her smile fading, her lies catching up. She whispered softly, "I can fix this." But even the mirror didn't believe her. Arjun walked into the room quietly. No anger, no words, just presence. She turned to him, searching his face for something. Maybe love, maybe suspicion. He simply said, "You've changed your perfume, that's all." A sentence so small, but it landed like a stone in her chest. Because she knew what he meant. He knew. He had always known, and now, every reflection she looked into would remind her of the truth she couldn't hide anymore. Chapter 8, The Weight of Truth. The truth has a strange weight. It doesn't crush you all at once. It settles, piece by piece, until you can't breathe without feeling it. Rupa woke up before dawn. The house was silent, too silent. Arjun wasn't in bed. His side was cold. She walked through the hallway, barefoot, heart trembling with the echoes of her own guilt. In the living room, she found him sitting by the window, staring at the rain. He didn't look at her. He didn't need to. "How long were you planning to keep pretending?" His voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. The kind of calm that comes after a storm has already destroyed everything. Rupa tried to speak, but the truth stuck in her throat like shards of glass. "It wasn't what you think," she whispered. He turned slowly, eyes hollow. "Then tell me what I should think." And in that moment, every lie she had ever told collapsed inside her chest. He was just a friend. The words fell weakly, like rain hitting glass, breaking, but not shattering. Arjun smiled. Not cruelly, but with the sadness of a man who had finally stopped hoping. "You should have told me when you still believed that." Silence filled the room, thick, suffocating, honest. Rupa's eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but from relief. Because for the first time, the lies were gone, and the truth was finally here. For days, they barely spoke. The house became a prison of glances and footsteps. Meals turned cold. Conversations never started. But something strange began to happen. The guilt that had chained her also started to free her. She began writing in a journal. Every night, every truth, every fear. At first, it was for herself. But slowly, she started leaving those pages on the table. Arjun never said a word about them, but she knew he read every line. In those pages, she confessed everything, the loneliness, the temptation, the emptiness that had brought her there. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She only asked to be understood. And that's what began to change him. Because sometimes, truth doesn't destroy love, it cleans it. It burns away the lies until only what's real can survive. One evening, as the rain finally stopped, Arjun closed the last page of her journal. He stood at the doorway and said quietly, "Maybe we can start again." She turned, eyes swollen, voice trembling. "You still want me after all this?" He smiled faintly. "No one wants perfection, Rupa. They want honesty." And in that small sentence, two broken people began to rebuild something stronger than before. Because love that survives the truth is the only love that was ever real. Chapter 9. Ashes of Forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't happen in one moment. It happens in 1,000 small ones. When you choose to stay instead of walk away, when you speak instead of hide, Rupa and Arjun had started talking again. Not about love, not yet, just about the little things. tea, groceries, bills. Ordinary words that slowly stitch silence back into sound. But behind those words, the shadows of the past still whispered. People had started to talk. Neighbors, relatives, even friends. Did you hear? After everything, he still kept her. Arjun heard them. So did Rupa. Forgiveness inside a house was one thing, but forgiveness in a world that refused to forget. That was something else entirely. One afternoon, Rupa went to the temple alone. She stood before the flame, hands trembling. "If there's still punishment left," she whispered, "let it be mine." Behind her, someone placed a shawl gently on her shoulders. It was Arjun. "You've punished yourself enough," he said softly. "Now live." When they returned home, Arjun old wooden box. Inside was their wedding photo. Faded, cracked at the edges. "I used to hate this picture," he said, "because it reminded me of who we were. But now, maybe it can remind us of who we could still be." Rupa looked at it, the young faces smiling without knowing the storms ahead. "Do you really believe we can start again?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "Not start over? Start wiser." They decided to move. A small town near the sea. New walls. New neighbors. No memories waiting in every corner. The first night there, they sat on the balcony, listening to waves crash in the distance. "You know," Rupa said quietly, "I never thought peace could sound like this." "It's not peace yet," Arjun replied, "but it's a start." He reached for her hand. For the first time in years, she didn't pull away. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the rhythm of normal life began to return. Cooking together, walking to the market, sharing quiet smiles over morning tea. They were still fragile. Two people walking barefoot on the glass of their past. But each day they learned how to bleed a little less. One night, Rupa opened her journal again. She wrote only one line. "Maybe forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering without pain." She left it on the table. The next morning, Arjun added beneath it, "Then we are getting closer." Because sometimes love doesn't end where the pain begins. It survives inside the ashes, quietly waiting for both hearts to rise again. Chapter 10. The Rebirth. The morning after the storm was silent. For the first time in years, Arav didn't wake up to the sound of pain, just quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't scare you anymore. Rupa had left the house 2 days ago. No note, no message, just absence. Arav stood by the window, watching the fog drift across the London skyline. Everything looked the same, yet something inside him had shifted, like a broken clock finally finding its rhythm again. He remembered the words his therapist once told him. Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about remembering who you were before it did. That day, Arav decided to remember. He didn't hate Rupa anymore. He didn't love her either. He simply released her. Because holding on had become heavier than letting go. 3 months later, the house was different. The curtains were open. The plants were alive again. And on the table lay a book, one he'd started writing after years of silence. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about survival. The story of a man who stayed, not because he was weak, but because he hoped the love he gave might someday return to him. But now, he didn't need it to. He had become enough for himself. One evening, Arav received a letter. It was from Rupa. Short, measured, honest. "I know I broke you, but you still never became cruel. That's something I'll carry forever." He folded the letter carefully, placed it in a box with all the other memories, and locked it. Not with anger, but with peace. Years passed. Arav's book, The Rebirth, became a quiet success. People saw themselves in his words, the pain, the strength, the silence, the healing. During one interview, a journalist asked, "If you could say one thing to the woman who hurt you most, what would it be?" Arav smiled and said, "Thank you." Because without the breaking, there would be no rebirth. That night, he walked along the Thames under the amber lights. The city hummed softly around him. He looked up at the sky, not searching for answers anymore, just grateful for the questions that led him here, because the truth was simple now. He had lost a love, but found himself, and that was enough. This was The Rebirth, a story of pain, truth, and healing brought to you by Funny Fun Audiobook Gala. If this story touched your heart, share it. Someone out there needs to hear it too. Sometimes life doesn't end when love does. Sometimes that's where life finally begins. Arav's story wasn't just about betrayal, it was about awakening. It was about the moment a man stopped searching for closure from others and found peace inside himself, because healing isn't loud, it's silent. It's the nights when no one's watching and you choose not to break again. Rupa's chapter in his life closed long ago. But what remained was Arav's courage, his forgiveness, and his rebirth. And maybe that's what this story is about. Not the pain we go through, but the strength we find because of it. You've just experienced The Rebirth, an emotional journey of love, betrayal, and rediscovery, brought to you by Funny Fun Audiobook Gala, where every story heals, inspires, and transforms. If this story touched your heart, like it. Comment below what part hit you the most. Subscribe to Funny Fun Audiobook Gala, because the next story might just change the way you see love forever. This is Funny Fun Audiobook Gala, where broken hearts find meaning and silence tells the loudest stories.